Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Success is Complicated podcast. I am your host, Raquel.
And I am your co-host, Sierra.
All right, so let's just go ahead and jump right into it.
Yeah.
Y'all know that Sierra and I talk every day, all day,
Yes.
about a lot of different things. I think Friday we talked about capitalism, your brain, being a scientist, all of it. But one of the things that there was this book that I posted on Instagram that C has started reading too, well, listening to, because she's an audio reader. And I don't understand how she's listening to this book because it's very science-y. Is that a word? Science-y. Yeah.
Close.
But we were talking about that, like, just opening up the conversation, right? Because we were saying that, well, science, I don't know if science is, somebody said that 95% of how we show up every single day is like the subconscious part of us.
Mm-hmm.
And you've been digging into it a lot deeper than what I have, because that's all I need to know. Like, but I will say that I read that same thing too, and I was like, dang, like, so how do you know, like, when you're, like, no longer growing? How do you challenge that? Because it just means that if you learn something new today from this episode, for example, right? Like, it stores in your subconscious and then it becomes a default for you. And that just, like, continues to repeat itself over and over. And I think that when you start to talk about, because we always talk about development here,
Well,
right?
one second. It
Okay,
all depends on how you listen to this episode, right? If you listen to this episode, but you're thinking and like you're really going into depth on every single thing that we say, chances are your subconscious won't store it because it's distracted, right? By your thoughts.
Right, because I remember you were telling me something about thinking, right?
Right.
So how do we know when our subconscious is not at play? And I think you were saying that means that we're not thinking.
When we're totally conscious, when we're totally dialed in, full attention, focused, then our subconscious is not at play. So Bruce Lipton gave this example.
I like Bruce. I like Bruce because he's challenging the norm. And it's like, I think that a lot of times we take science and use it as law, and sometimes you can get blocked from listening to, like, how things have evolved in the world.
Right. And I think, honestly, I told Quill today, and I think I said it on another episode, it's like science is, it's really good for us as humans. However, scientists are just making a guess off the information that they have, and it's tested. And anything that does not support the results, is generally ignored. So when you think about like this whole consciousness base, it's really quantum based, right? So basically, now you see it, now you don't. And
I told that girl about that book, and that girl then dived all the way into the book. I have not dived in because I'm just not interested. That deep. Let's give some context to it then.
Well, that's what I was gonna do. I was gonna give an example, like the one that Bruce gave, like with
Bruce gave. Okay,
right.
Go ahead.
Basically, he gave this really good example. At least I thought it was good, y'all. But then I'm gonna tell y'all why I thought it was good. He gives this example about whenever you're driving your car. And whenever you're driving your car, I think we all have had that instance where we done drove somewhere and we like, shoot, I don't know how the hell I got here. And basically what happened is your subconscious took over because you were thinking, you were on your phone, you were, playing stuff in your head just about like, wherever you're going. Maybe you're going to the grocery store, so you start thinking about your grocery list. And he says the moment that you start thinking or get distracted, you're no longer driving your car. Well, who's driving?
You're no longer conscious.
Right, you're no longer conscious that you're driving your car. So who's driving the car? It's the subconscious, right? But when you're actually focused, looking out the windshield, you see the trees, you see the stop signs, you see, you know when you turn right, you know when you turn left, then you're actually conscious.
Okay. I mean that makes sense. It makes me go back. You know what it makes me think about is like what I believe is one of the most important skills that you can like develop, which is active listening.
Mm-hmm.
Like really learning to listen to people,
Mm-hmm.
because you know working as a coach or a therapist, like you always going to bring yourself into the sessions in some way. But when you talk about really being effective and really serving the person in front of you,
Mm-hmm.
like you have to be conscious in that sense. Like, what are they saying? Which is why, like, you know, this weekend I was telling you that I was talking to someone that has had like a different experience, a different exposure in life than even what I have had. And at one point they were like, oh, let me give you the details. And I was like, so happy that the details did not matter. But it also allowed me to be like, really like listen. Like I try to really be present so that I could hear underneath like what they were actually trying to convey to me.
Mm-hmm.
So I think, I mean, I guess conscious could also mean being present, right? Being present
Right,
in the moment. But a lot of times, don't we? I feel like a lot of times we feel like we are present.
Well, you know how you have this thing that you say where you say like so many times when we're listening to people, we're listening to fix or to solve.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And whenever
or win.
Or win,
Mhm.
whenever we're doing that, most of the time we're in our head, we're thinking, and we're just waiting
Right,
for
'cause
them
we
to
want to
say,
get you over the hump. Like, let me make sure that, because you know that's something too that I've had to get comfortable with too. Like, it's okay if somebody doesn't walk away with like this huge outcome or breakthrough in a session. Like, you have to really like trust the process. And the minute that you don't, you see that it can go like all the way off. At least I can, because you know the conscience come back. I'm like, okay, you let your ideas, you let your opinions like really creep in. I'm not saying that it never does, but I do try to be present. My mind just went somewhere else. So.
where did it go?
I was thinking about like, because yesterday I had felt like a great deal of like gratitude, just like life. I mean, I think I usually tend to feel that often, but I was thinking about like, we always ask the like, I've always found myself asking like, what's next? What's next? What's next? What's next? And you know, some people will say like that's trauma, like your ability not to sit down, or there's something like inherently flawed. What's the balance between like being present for this moment, but also like, okay, but I'm trying to get to the grocery store because I got to get my grocery list. Like, I feel like I feel it,
Mm-hmm.
right? But I mean, I don't really know. I ain't no expert in this stuff. That's
Well, I think that what you know, you did a really really great post yesterday. I think you posted about it, and as you said, as humans, we're wired for growth.
Right.
Like,
innately. You're right.
And innately, we are wired for growth, and I mean, what you know, for some people, we may not necessarily use those skills, and I think that the difference is you actually use those skills. She's weak because my eyes watering, and I know I'm on camera.
I try to keep it serious.
No, it's okay. My eye waters, y'all. If y'all been watching us by now, like you already know, like here I gonna be watering during the episode. But as humans, we're wired for growth, and if we have choice, right? We have choice over that. And sometimes what we choose to do is, you know, be default. Like whatever is good, whatever, you know, if it ain't broke, don't fix it.
Right.
If I get to a comfortable place, or if I said this was the goal, then this is what is.
You just made me think, you know, sometimes, because I remember one time asking myself, like, you know why, like life feels good. Like easy. I was like, is that a traumatic? Is that a trauma? Because you can say that everything is a traumatic response, just based. But when you go back to think about like what is trauma, right? It's your perception of things. Like it's not that I don't want an easy life, but I also understand, like don't get comfortable with being comfortable, type of thing. Like wanting to place yourself in position to always, like not to always grow, but to grow. So I feel like I've been able to integrate those things, like being here in the present moment, but also open myself up to whatever possibilities that lie ahead, because it ain't over until it's over. And that's how I think, like it's just not over until it's over. And I almost feel like so we're inherently wired for growth, right? I think that we should be asking like, what's next?
Right. I mean, I guess it's, at what point in the process for certain people, right? If it, diverges your focus from whatever you're currently focused on, then maybe that becomes an issue. But if you're able to, balance the both, because we're all unique, then why not?
Right.
Because that is stretching yourself.
And I
right?
think what's next could get to a place too of, again, when you say thinking, right? Like if you're, it's okay to ask what's next, but if you're asking what's next and it comes with overthinking, because I think I have gotten better with that. I almost feel like life's just like you ain't really got a choice, because you start to realize like how much stuff is just outside of your control. So leaning into the stuff that we really don't have any control over. Like this. Well, I was thinking about this week with like the whole branding strategy and all of that stuff. Like I've been opening myself up to like the process of that, right?
Do you want to tell us about that? The whole branding strategy thing?
What you mean? What? How my ego kicked in?
Just the where you headed, that sort of thing.
I don't know where I'm headed. Clearly.
Oh man.
I don't. I really don't know where I'm headed, because I had so many plans for this whole like.
So your ego's still here.
Yeah, my ego, my subconscious is still very much so in the works. I don't feel lost. I don't feel lost, but I would tell you that for what they presented is not what I was expecting to get back. But I still felt a great deal of gratitude too. And for me, the gratitude came in like, I'm always in awe of like people that have like of other people's gifts, because you can always just feel like another person's body of work. Like, I don't know. And well, I tell you, they came back and they told me that, Raquel, based off of the research we've done and just looking at all of the clients that we've served, you're a career coach. And I was like, okay, well, in the moment, I actually did say it to them. And I was like, a career coach? Like, you mean to tell? I said last week I probably wouldn't have been able to receive this. I do think that I was in a place of acceptance. But still, the thought that came to my mind was, you mean to tell me I got 2 masters, all this education, and did like therapy work, and you gonna dumb me down to just a career coach? But when I go back to think about like why people come to see me, it starts with the career aspect of things, and we end up getting into so many other things. Like, cause I don't know how to just work with like one part of you. Like, I'm just not really good at it. Like, because whatever you're presenting to me, I'm gonna ask those questions. But when I really go back to, it has changed and altered my plans for success. Is complicated. I don't feel anxious about it at all, because I think that, the ideas will come, right? I don't know. It's still a very uncomfortable state for me. Like, I'm not like freaking out about it, but it is a very difficult. It's like you did all that damn planning. Like, oh, I'm gonna come out with games. Like my card game's gonna be this, that, and third, and then it changed to this. But I will tell you that I did get a boost of energy from hearing from them, because I feel like my content is gonna be so much easier for me. And to me, if it is, that's like alignment and that's flow.
Right.
But I do think that as much as we say that like the external validation of it, like titles, I didn't think that I was, well, I don't even know what title I was looking for, to be honest. And I had a client that asked me this week, he was like, why not executive coach? And I said, well, everybody are not working in these executive roles. And like, we all have careers. Executives are people with careers. So I was like, to me, it makes sense to say a career coach, but it goes back to how you market it and all those things. And I do get in my head because I will tell myself, I am not a marketer. I am not a marketer. I am not a salesperson.
Well, I think, when it comes to, that stuff, it'll be easier for you, your content will be easier. That's marketing.
But it just flows from here too. That's the
Right.
other thing. It's so much easier. And I think that's the thing, because we always say, like, learn to lead with your heart and allow your intellect to support you.
Right.
I would say that when I created all of those plans, it may have felt like it was probably coming from like my heart, but it still felt very difficult to create content for me. I would say, like, now I got content for days, and that's just because it's coming naturally, like it's coming easily, like. And I was thinking about, like, so it deeply resonates with me because, like, I too want professional success, and then I want personal fulfillment. But oftentimes, and that's the clients that I end up serving, right?
Right.
When I say, like, leaving no stone unturned, like, I think that what like a lot of time what's happening now is people like, we ain't gonna let them jobs work us to death, or like, I'm gonna make sure I put motherhood or wifehood first, like really trying to prioritize. And nobody ever really learns how to integrate like all of their identities.
Right.
And I do think that I'm not gonna say like I'm this expert at it, but I do think I do a really good job at integrating all of my identities because, we all have these life roles.
Right.
And I was thinking about it because I was thinking about my content, and I was like, what's your most important life role? All of them. For me, all of my life roles are important, but it also forces me to challenge myself in that sense because I want to figure out how to integrate them, not necessarily like find a balance, because I feel like when you're looking for a balance, it just doesn't necessarily open up the space for you to be free from like the feelings of like guilt and shame and all those things, and like really owning like your place in the world.
Right. I think I heard what's her name? That wrote The Year of Yes, Shonda Rhimes, say like, if you are, like at work, then something else is suffering, or if you're at home, then work is suffering. And I think we both was like,
Michelle and Oprah say something to that effect too. You can have everything, but not at the same time. And I don't know. I mean, I understand like the intent behind that, but I also feel like that, like, I think it's easy to get to like Michelle's age, like almost 50 and 60 years old, and feel like, okay, now I have it all. But in the process, like, you feel like guilt, shame, resentment to your spouse, like all of those things. And I still think that all of those things are a choice. Because when you feel like you have to sacrifice, or like I had to choose this over that, we forget like all of the possibilities that are actually available to us. And I'm not saying that you might not be tired, you might not be exhausted from some things, but I do really believe that you can like have it all.
Okay.
Like, God put in the Bible like all of these fruits, and I don't think that he's like, you get love at one part of your life, you get peace in one, and in just certain seasons, like you can really have all the fruits of the spirit simultaneously, like together. And if God says that you can have all of those things like together in then one instance, then you can have everything. So that's how I see it. And oftentimes when I am working, but it may require you to identify like your life structure. When I think about, like, because I had asked C, so the kids are out of school now. C likes to get up to go to the gym at 5 a.m. I get up and go to the gym with her when I get up to and make it. But I had asked her, I was like, C, the kids are out of school now. Like, Do you go to the gym at 5 a.m. because that's what you do it because the kids are in school, or that's just like your time? And she was like, well, you don't have to come at 5 a.m. I'm like, no, I'm just trying to figure out if like this is your schedule like in the summertime too, because I feel like there's a little bit more flexibility. And she was like, no, at 5 a.m. I said, oh, okay, well, I'm gonna be there then. But still, like your life structure, right?
Mm-hmm.
And even for like, I feel like I don't have to get up at 5 a.m. anymore.
Right.
But now I get up at 5 a.m. because you come back, you pack your kids' lunch, you do all of that. You do all of of the things, right? And I don't know. I don't feel like it's like balance. I'm not saying by the end of the day I'm not tired,
right?
Because that would just be a false statement. But I do think you have to figure out how to integrate all of your identities. And sometimes we're like, okay, I'm going to focus on this identity. I'm going to focus on this one. I'm going to focus on this one. I'm going to focus on this one. Like,
and let me tell you why I go at 5 a.m.
Why?
I go at 5 a.m. because throughout the day, you find yourself taking care of everybody else.
Mm-hmm.
You take care of your kids. You take care of your husband. You tend to work. You tend to this. 5 a.m. when I get up, that's my time. Like
about 5:30.
Because see, then that start rolling into other stuff.
No,
because I need to be able to get back
but that's
by 6.
conscious though, right? Like it's like I'm consciously choosing to get up at 5 a.m. because I know that I have several life roles.
Right.
Versus like to me that's integration and not necessarily trying to figure out how to balance it, right?
Right.
You've identified that this is something that works for you, and that's what you've leaned into. So no, I mean I get it.
Right. Part of that is I want to take care of myself in this way.
Right.
And as the day go on, things come up, things be happening, and then you don't, and then you mad at everybody else because you ain't took care of yourself. So I just, that for me is the time.
But do you see how that eliminates like resentment? Because those things can lead to resentment. Like I love listening to Michelle Obama. Like I love listening to her talk about like marriage, just like all of the things, and not saying that I agree with everything that she's saying, but I do think when she says that like there was 10 years of her marriage where like they were not happy. What I took from that was that Michelle felt like she had to be there for the kids and do things a certain way because Barack was like either the president of the United States or working on becoming the president. But I don't think that Michelle also realized that that was a choice.
Right.
And when you don't realize that that's a choice, out of 30 years or whatever, 10 years end up being the worst years because you've allowed yourself to feel helpless and hopeless because you don't realize that you have prioritized one of your life roles, which is okay. But if you're choosing to prioritize like one of your life roles, like take responsibility and accountability for that. That's how I feel about it.
When I heard her talk about that, it really, really, really resonated with me, right? Because I felt like when we first got married, like my husband would be doing all of the things. Like he go play basketball with his friends, he make time to go out for drinks, and he make time for this and make time for that. And I'm like, and I ain't made time for nothing.
Mm-hmm.
And so today, like if it's at 5 a.m. that I'm gonna get up and make time for me, that's what that is what I'm gonna do.
No, I mean I get it.
I'm
gonna still get up.
I mean,
I know I got a choice. You ain't gotta tell me that.
I know you got a choice. I definitely know you got a choice.
For the most part, I'm gonna get up. You know what I'm saying? Like, cause last week was busy.
Right.
There were between like the after school, like well not after school, but like the school parties, the graduations that they now have for every grade, no matter I thought it used to just be kinder, 5th, 8th, and 12th. But it's every grade level. And then just between like work and all of that, like last week was busy, but I don't know that I would like want my life any other way.
Right.
Like I don't like after the graduation ceremony, Like Danny and I, we went and grabbed like lunch, and then we both came back and like went to work, right? And to me, it was like honoring like all of those roles that are important to me. Like I don't want to have to like just choose to put this one ahead of this one. To me, like I just said, I don't think it goes back to if God said that you can have all of the like I don't. I just really He didn't separate the fruit like the spirit of the fruit and was like you get peace at this time, you get love at this time. What are the rest of them, girl?
Was it discipline and
Right, they all go ahead and
right.
And that to me, like it's about actually to me like self-care and self-love is discipline.
Right, it is.
So but I'm learning that too. Like it's the discipline of saying, okay, your ass might be tired, but these are the things that
I was supposed to be in 2 places at one time yesterday. I mean,
you
and so I did feel like that was prioritizing one role over another. Not necessarily role, but
you
like
were being with complexity
as a mom, I have 2 children.
right.
One was supposed to be 40 minutes into Houston, and then one was supposed to be 15 minutes into Pearland.
Right.
Like I did feel like a little, like pulled and tugged. But I guess once I figured it out, I'm like,
but I'm gonna give you some grace though, because if you hadn't gotten up in the morning, like one of y'all probably would have went here and one of y'all probably would have went here, and y'all probably would have set y'all tent and everything up at the place that y'all were gonna end up at.
Right.
But you didn't necessarily know that they were at 2 different locations
places at
yesterday.
the same time.
So
Right.
I do think that you probably would have managed that differently if you had known that they were not at the same place. So give yourself a little bit of grace in that sense.
I am. I mean, but woo, that did feel like a lot. I'm supposed to be over here. I'm supposed to be and I'm supposed to be over there. How did they think that was gonna work?
Right.
It definitely works out. I mean, because as mom, you have 2 children. You gotta, and then I did go to think like, who's gonna be okay? Who's gonna be okay? Who will probably not be okay if we don't attend XYZ?
I got a question. Well, we didn't pivot it all the way, but I think we'll end up bringing it all back together. Like this whole subconscious and kind of being at default, right? Because
right.
I feel like default, like for example, for a woman, right? Like I got to take care of my children.
Mm-hmm.
And if that is kind of like your subconscious, like, because I think we overthink a lot of the times with like our kids.
Well, I think it's beautiful when your subconscious kicks in that way, like, especially when that's the task, right? When that's the task and you don't
have a choice in that.
What do you mean you don't have a choice?
When you say like when you're subconscious, that means just default is kicking in.
So I don't see it as you don't have a choice. I see it as help. I see your subconscious as help to complete where you're trying to go, right? The issue with the subconscious is...
So you see the benefit.
Right.
What you're saying is I see the benefit because we need our default to kick in
mm-hmm.
at time. So I understand, but I guess I lean more on the other side of
conscious.
On the conscious side, because I don't want anything else choosing for me.
Okay.
I don't want anything like I don't want like my role as a mother to just choose for me. My role as a wife to just choose for me. My role as a coach. I don't want anything like choosing for me in that sense. Like I want to feel like I am choosing for myself. I mean, granted, you need, because it's like if you walk out into the street or you see a car.
I embrace it, right? Because that example that
mm-hmm.
was given a while ago about the, driving.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, baby, when I be driving, my mind be everywhere. I mean, everywhere. So if you're on the road, watch out, right? Because the thing about those the subconscious
right.
is whatever program is using, it picks up the traits of that.
I mean, I know it because sometimes I get home and pull up in the driveway and I be like, I don't know how I got here. But it's dangerous. It could be dangerous too.
I have a different understanding of it when you say it's dangerous, right?
Okay.
I think chances of us getting in accidents increase when we're conscious versus it's our subconscious, right? If you think about it, half the people that you're on the highway with are probably driving from their subconscious, and it's done automatically. Like when it's time to brake, you're braking right when you're supposed to.
I get that because I think about the difference between a more experienced driver versus not, right? When you first get on, like, start taking like driving courses, if you go back to when you first started learning how to drive, like you turning, you're overturning.
Yeah,
I get it from a driving standpoint. I guess yes, I would agree. Because if I start thinking I can forget how to drive, right? Like, so I get that.
Right.
But when you start to talk about like just life and your role beyond being a driver behind like the car, to me, it doesn't necessarily translate over into
you're right,
the
because
same thing.
My subconscious had me stealing.
What?
No, seriously. I would go get a coffee and I would go and I would go to the gas. Right. I would go to the gas station and I would walk in, go get my coffee, make it up, and then walk right out back to my car. And by the time I was back at my car, I was like, oh shit, like I didn't pay for this coffee. And so my husband I told him about that, and he said, you weren't thinking. I said, no, I was thinking. I was in my head just thinking, and my subconscious took over. So I guess that's the thing, what you're saying about the subconscious is like, whatever program the subconscious is playing, like it's not necessarily leading you to where you want to go. It's going into like a default mode. They're not saying stealing is default for me. But making coffee and heading out the door may be default for me, right?
Right.
So that's an example of where your subconscious was not supporting me and what I want to do, because I would like to pay. I would like to be a good patron.
I understand like with fear, right? Like there are some things that like walking out into the street, right? Like I don't just walk across the street. Like, and I don't necessarily think that I'm thinking about walking across the street, but I think my subconscious kicks in, like, look both ways before you just go run across the street. So I understand it from that sense. But when you start to, because we always talk about adulthood and being with uncertainty and being with like complexity, like, and all of the challenges that come with that, right? If we're really talking about being a driver of your life, I think that there is less. I'm not saying that you're never going to feel those feelings of like helplessness, hopelessness, loneliness, resentment, fear. Like, I'm not saying that you're going to feel those things, but the intensity, the frequency of how you feel those things when you are really like operating from a conscious place, I feel like it starts to diminish, which is why I say so when we use that branding strategy example, right?
Mm-hmm.
I've been thinking like, what is the subconscious behind that threw me off guard? Like my programming that threw me off guard when they presented a totally different plan to me.
Mm-hmm.
And it was my plan. Like, sometimes I can like really listen to like quail, that I can shut out a lot of other things. But then the conscious kicked in because I guess the conscious piece of it kicked in because I was like, oh my gosh, the body of work that they presented was like incredible. So I connected from that standpoint. And then I'm like, what could I do with this? So being present, the gratitude that I felt, just like all of those things. But I don't want anything like really, like I know that there's a greater power, but I do want to feel like I am choosing for myself every day. I don't want to wake up and then, because you know there's so many variables in life. We're multi-dimensional, faceted. Like even when it comes to my kids, at some point your kids grow off and they live their own lives. Like I don't want to, like, you know, Kaden and Cam decide that I don't want to go to college. Whatever they decided they want to do, I don't want to have like prioritized my role as a mom and setting them up for success, that when I get older, I'm like, after all I've done for you, like this is how you repay me. So I think about it from I guess from that sense.
So I definitely get what you're saying, and I think that that's the beauty of understanding the role in of the subconscious and like our conscious mind, right? Is that we do have the ability to improve, change, develop, right? Versus accepting whatever program that we do have and being able to recognize the two. Now, I will tell you that it is difficult.
It is.
To go ahead.
Motherhood just came to my mind, right? Because we often talk about like these core beliefs. Like when I hear people say like, well, it don't matter if anybody takes this the wrong way, because I don't question how I show up as a mom in any way. Mm-hmm. But I do not feel like motherhood is like the greatest gift in the world. I don't.
Okay.
That's not my subconscious. One, I don't question myself. Like, you know, when people say like, this is the great, to me, that's a core belief. Mm-hmm. Like, and if that is your core belief, that is probably the one thing that drives every single thing else that you do. And I appreciate all of my life roles. All of my life roles to me are like the greatest gifts in the world.
Right.
Because all of it gives me like opportunity to grow. So when I hear like, honestly, like at one point I will say that I was like, oh, that's so cute. And then I really don't believe that though.
Okay.
I do not think that.
Okay. I won't give my beliefs, y'all.
Why? You can? You don't.
No, I know. I can.
Okay.
No, I will. But yeah. So I guess
like it's the greatest reward. That's what I'm sure you know what I'm trying to say when you hear. Motherhood is the greatest reward for me. There are a lot of things that can be
motherhood has been a great gift, especially when I became a mom and all those other things. Like I definitely think it was a turning point in my life that you know.
But wasn't becoming a wife a turning point in your life? Wasn't becoming a HR professional a turning point in your life?
So those were, but this I would say motherhood for me felt different.
Okay.
The first time around, anyway.
Okay. I mean, I don't know what that means. I'll ask you when we get out of here, because, you know, I'm interested in hearing, like, your perspective. But the same way that my heart fills up, like, in all of my other roles and gratitude, I feel that in all of my
I mean, I do.
roles.
You know, I would say that I have gratitude for all of my roles in every way that I show up. But I definitely think that, I don't know, motherhood was different, right? Because while I can kick a lot of those other roles if I would like to, in all of my gratitude up for them, mm-hmm. Motherhood is the one that you just
can kick that one too.
I mean, you can, but you don't even want to. I don't want to.
You don't want to, but there are other people that would rather be done with it, and that's okay too.
Well, like, kick it.
I mean, no, they can. All jokes aside, though, you really do have
choice.
You really do have choice. Right. Like, just because you decided to, I think that there's so much judgment around stuff like that. I mean, we talked about it from like suicide. I think that there's a lot of judgment. Like, just say for instance, you start a job.
Right.
I think when you start a job, you think it's going to be this. And then you decide that it's not. So you decide you want to go and do something else.
Right.
Why can't people feel the same way about motherhood? Is it because children are involved? Like, well, I'm not saying that I feel that way.
Well, I think that honestly, you know, some kids may be better off if people decided that, right? No, seriously, because I'm not going to say that.
No, but what about their attachment and the attachment bonds and all that?
What attachment bond?
But I hear what you're saying, though.
I think if you are doing a job that you don't want to do, right, mm-hmm. what's probably happening? That default in that program
Where's all the other feelings, right? When we talk about like if we go back to like our childhoods or like people that we know or however you want to think about it, right? I don't think that our parents like did not want us.
Mhm.
Like I don't think that there was a lack of love in it, but I do think like it shocks the shit out of you like when you have kids and then you like it come with a whole bunch of different emotions.
Right.
And then you be like, because I had you, this is what I got to do. You got to do. And then you hear people say like, I brought you in this world, I take you out of this world, because you feel the weight and the pressure that comes with being a parent. I don't think that they meant any harm, but nobody, you don't have to stay either if you don't want to stay, because what ends up happening, like I don't know what my mom felt, for example, right? Like I know for sure that she loved us, but I think that consciously, she did not choose like every single day, because there's a piece of me that feels like if she did, maybe she would still be here. But that shit was heavy. Like all of the stuff that and when I think about like her last days, like consciously she was trying to do what was best for like Petey and I. But there still was something that was driving her behind, whether it be I had these kids at a very young age. You know, I don't have a high school education. Like all of those, whatever guilt and shame could have been underneath there versus what could have been there if she felt like she was consciously choosing and she didn't just have to take the weight and responsibility because she had kids. Like I just don't I don't know, I just don't subscribe to that. Like I don't know,
but I do think that so as humans, I think we're so complex, right?
Very.
I mean, anybody out there who has kids, some days you rather just you just rather do something else. But and if that day made the difference, I don't know where that could lead me, right? I don't think it would necessarily be reflective of what I truly want.
Based off of beliefs that you have about probably being a mom, though. Like, what do you think your role is as a mom?
What do I think? To support my children.
Okay. How is that different in any of your other relationships or like life roles?
What do you mean? How is it different?
Just that. How is it different than any other? So how is it different? So if your role as a mom is to support your kids,
Mm-hmm.
How is that different from being a wife, being a professional, being a trader? Like, aren't you supporting someone or something in all of those roles in some way?
So all of these other roles that you meet, one, they're not necessarily needing your support. If you can lend your support, but when you first have children, they need your support. They need your love. Like, not necessarily yours, but somebody. Somebody has to give that love and support.
I don't know. Maybe I just feel like it goes across the board in all of my roles. So like, from as a friend, as mom, wife, daughter, like everybody needs and wants those things. Like the people that you support from an HR standpoint, they want those things.
They do. They do want support.
And to some
However,
degree, people need it too.
I work in a team, so whenever
I mean,
I am not available.
I hear what you are saying. I guess it's when we say success is complicated, right? It's like redefining what success means to you and all those things. But I also think that there is opportunity to redefine like what it means to be a mom, what it means to be a wife, what it means to be a professional, what it means to be a friend. And I don't know that we revisit the roles that support the structure of our lives oftentimes, because a lot of it becomes like default. And I think that motherhood is probably one of the trickiest ones, because you'll probably cut your parents off like because they're adults and they don't.
As default as it is, one day it's over, right? One day your kids grow up, and that support that you lend them, they will no longer need in that fashion. It's always changing and always growing and always.
So why do we put so much weight on it?
Because those are the foundations, like the support that you give them initially. Now, there's some people who cannot shift, right? There are some people who cannot shift when their child does not need that same guidance and support. However, I mean, I'm not there yet. I mean, I do think that my children has had, moments to where things have changed, where they've needed me in one way and don't need me in that way today. But I do think that when they get grown enough, oh, baby,
I think that...
Will I be leaning into empty nesting? Yes. Nester.
As I've continued to like grow and evolve, the one thing that I've taken from motherhood is that people in general want the same things that children want, which is why I feel like when you become an adult, there's like not a lot of grace, because somewhere along the line, like something shifts.
Mm-hmm.
Like people want the same thing that adults want, the same thing as children. So I think that when I look at my children, they remind me of like grace, love, but not just and support and all those things, but just not to the extension, and like several branches that can branch off to other people. And I think that that's like the beauty in like children, because you see children as like innocent, right? Like I go back to when Caden was when he went skating this weekend. I don't know that I necessarily operated like as a mom. Like I didn't, because Caden was like, "Come get on, help me, mom, with like skating," because he didn't really know how to skate. And I was like, "Caden, you're good." Like me thinking you're probably gonna fall a few times. To me, I don't feel that like, because another kid was like, "Why aren't you helping him?" And I was like, "He doesn't need my help." To me, it's a reflection of how I show up in a lot of my roles. I don't try not to make the assumption that you need me. And like Caden, what do you want me to help you with? Like he don't know what he wanted me to help him with. Like, cause I can't teach you how to skate. Number one, I don't have no skates on. I put on skates. We both gonna be out here falling together, because we're gonna both be out here falling together. But in the end, Caden, I mean, he wasn't skating, but he was sliding his feet and he was good. He even participated in the race that day.
Mm-hmm.
But that kid had a perception of probably what they thought that being a mom looked like, because he's like, "Why are you not helping him?" I don't think that Caden walked away with like mom is any less than a mom. If anything, I think that he walked away feeling like not like less than, and feeling like empowered in a sense. And for me, when you say like support and I feel like, to me, like I would hope like even with my clients, they can feel the branches of like what motherhood have taught me to. I guess that's why I say I don't put it like on I mean, I love being a mom, but I love all of the other things equally as well. Like when we talk about like, what does Nick used to say, like performing action and establishing being?
Mm-hmm.
Like to me, that's the establishing being part of it. Like who are you like in all of these situations where you don't feel like you're thinking about, like, because I was conscious when Caden was like, "Mom, you need my help me. Caden, what do you need help with? Like, what do you need help with?"
So I guess when I listen to what you, like the way that you explain that, your support looked different from what another mom would be doing. But that your intention may be different from what another mom's intention is, right? Like, or like how they view motherhood in general. Like, am I supposed to get up and walk you until you know how to skate, or am I supposed to empower you? And that's what I hear in that. Is like, you wanted to empower your son to be able to take on things that by himself, because at some point in life, that's what we do as adults and humans, right? We take on life.
Yeah, but I go
your
to say
support
that there
was you were right there.
There were other moms that were like, "Woo!" Like, I wish he would just get off those skates or use what's the thing that they use?
The walker. I don't know.
The walker, because Caden, he originally had it, but he didn't really want to use the walker. But they wanted to sit down like I was sitting down too.
Right.
But the default of how you probably I guess that's the point. The default of how you should show up as a mom. Get out there and you like walking around, kids running into you, bumping into you on skates. You're not on skates. Like, not that I thought it was insane, but I also see like that aspect of it too. I see another mom like, just take them skates off.
Right.
Because they felt an obligation to have to be out there like helping their child because of what a mom is. Like, that kid was like, but you're not helping him.
Right. I mean, and there are some moms who may have felt that, and then there are probably some other moms who was like, "Woo, I enjoyed, like skating with you and all those other things like that." Right. So, I mean, it is a broad spectrum across the board, and it really is who you are, right? Like,
we were talking about the subconscious piece of it, like the deep your subconscious versus your conscious,
right?
Your conscious, and there could be a belief system about motherhood that has you working in default, like a programming that you're not even aware of. Is the point that I was trying to make.
I mean, but if you are feeling stressed by it, then maybe that is a default, right?
That's the point I'm
making. But if you are enjoying it,
I didn't see anybody enjoying it. That's what I'm telling you. Like, like kept looking at what time is this party over? Like, and no, because I'm not saying that I haven't. It probably shows up for me too in different ways, especially when it comes to school, for example. Mm-hmm. Like, there's a default about my views about education and stuff. Mm-hmm. So I see when it shows up, because I start to feel stress. I start to feel like I have no choice but to prepare you from an educational standpoint, because one, like, nobody can ever take that away from you once you got so I understand those, like, I understand those things, which is why I say, like, I want the more conscious side of it, like in all areas. Like, I want to be able to challenge all of my life roles and not just taking them on just because
life is giving it.
Yeah, because life is giving it to me, right? Because I know where my defaults, where my subconscious, like education is one for sure. Because I'm like, didn't you just hear me two? Like, what in the world? Like, the stress is coming from because I'm not choosing, like, I'm not conscious, I'm not present, like, in the moment per se. I'm not thinking about no empowerment, that's for sure. I'm not, and I'm not. And what ends up happening is I start to either feel bad as a mom, and the other side of it is Caden. I would have made, like, you can tell him getting emotional, teary-eyed around it. Feels like mom is probably disappointed in him, and those aren't the things that I want to, I guess to create. Like, those aren't the things that I want to create, which is why I say, like, when you talk about like that subconscious aspect of things, like, it is important to know, like, those beliefs behind, like, being a mom. I mean, because they got pillars to it. Like, we just talk about being a mom, and then talk about, like, how my belief of education drives into, like, being a mom.
Right.
So, like, no hit to the people that was skating around on the skating floor, but they were, to me, they look no different than what I look when it comes to education. to education. So no, I've been
So check your defaults, y'all. Check your defaults.
How do you check your defaults? So like if we were telling people like how do you check your defaults? How do you
Well, I think I was going there earlier, but checking your defaults is, is when you're not in control. Like when you're not in control. It's very interesting. How do you check your defaults?
with you?
With me?
We talk a lot. No, I
Get you a friend then. Get you a friend.
Get a friend that is just as committed to growth as you are. I don't know if you have. So I would say less about checking your default and realizing that we have defaults. So if you realize that we have defaults, you can think about how you're showing up in these situations. Like, am I doing this because I am a mom? Am I doing this because I am a wife? Am I doing this because I am a friend or those things? So I think it's timing, right? Depending on who's like listening to the podcast, because you and I talk about this stuff all the time. Right. So it's much easier to get to like the conversation that we had like as quickly as we did. Right. But for other people, it's like I didn't even know that my subconscious is running my life 95% of the time.
Right. And what does that mean? What, like, if my subconscious is running it, what is happening? Like, where am I?
Right. Where am I in all of this? So no, I think it's like I'm glad that you bring up the topic, because when I read it, I was like, oh shit. But I had never said anything about it. I was just like, oh shit. And so when you brought it up this week, I was like,
Yeah, it has definitely been a really sciencey read, but I'm enjoying it.
Well, you keep on teaching me what you learning in the book, and then we can just have a conversation about it. Because I have to put that one down.
Okay.
I'm gonna have to put that one down. But I like listening to what you're getting from the book. All right, so we're gonna wrap up now.
Yep.
All right. Well, thank you everybody for listening to our podcast. Subscribe if you have not. You can follow follow Success is Complicated on Instagram. And C has a page as well. She is C Bizzle, CeeBizzle, and she provides a lot of trading tips that applies like to just life in general. Here's me trying to like push her gift out into the world, because we talked a lot about that this week, but I won't dive into that. But thank you so much for listening to us. I would say if you have topics that you would like for C and I to explore, feel free to shoot us a message, send an email, leave a comment on the YouTube page. But we're out.
All right.
All right, everybody.